Hello everyone. I am happy to be here to support all of us these days. Thank you for being with us via Mindgram's app, via Zoom, and thank you for being with us via YouTube. My name is Karina Tomczyk. I'm a psychologist. I have a pleasure to deliver a lot of trainings and workshops these days about regulating our emotions, fear, anxiety, and stress in difficult times we are all facing. We all decided that these days a lot of you might need some basic psychological support, and that's why we are sharing that with you. I strongly believe that these days all of us should become psychologists. And if you are asking yourself, Is that the moment to go and see the specialist because I fear I'm gonna go into some panic, or I don't know how to support my closest relatives, friends from Ukraine, in Poland, and from all over the world? We decided that it's gonna be a good idea to share with you how to become your own psychologist. Thank you for being here with me. Our meeting will be about 55 minutes, and I would be more than happy to be able to answer any questions concerning psychological support that you have. We are very, very proud that we managed to have a helpful community, and in MindGram and via MindGram you can use a lot of helpful resources. We also prepared dedicated hotlines and workshops. My dear friend Kuba from our studio will definitely during the meeting share with you all the links you need to know where are the hotlines, what are the numbers, and when you can find any other support that we as MindGram prepared these days. So feel free to ask me any questions. I'm a psychologist, I'm also a business trainer, and these days I promised myself that I will do the best I can to share my knowledge, inspirations, maybe even some metaphors or images that could be helpful for all of us to stay strong. Why am I talking about staying strong? Because all that we observe these days, all that is happening next to us is really, really heartbreaking. But I also strongly believe that we can all transform and transfer that heartbreak into something really, really big. And I believe that big thing would be help, support, but most of all, that would be our own inner strength. So that while facing these difficult times, we all feel that we are strong enough to mentally face that crisis and that difficult times we are all now in. And that's why I would like to start with asking you whether you feel strong these days. Maybe that could be a hint for you to start our discussion. If there is anyone who would like to share what the most difficult or unpleasant things are, the things you feel today or you think about today, feel free to share. Meanwhile, I would like to share what is happening with me. Because from last Thursday, I feel I'm quite energetic and I have a lot of strength and a lot of energy. But I also strongly believe that this kind of strength is nothing else but the adrenaline in my organism. And thank you, because some of you are writing down that you feel tired and you can't find energy to work. That's opposite to what I'm feeling right now, because as I started, I also believe that, yes, I feel that adrenaline-like stress these days, but as a psychologist, I'm also totally sure that it will be then followed by a lot of cortisol that is rather connected to long-term stress and crisis. And some of you are feeling tired now, and I am totally sure that I'm gonna feel tired very, very soon. Maybe that's gonna be in few days, maybe in few weeks. And that's why I strongly believe that we all need to psychologically prepare now, not for a sprint, because I'm, energetic now for a short sprint, but we all have to fulfill ourselves with mental strength so that we take care of that tiredness and the problems with finding energy to work, and then become ready to take the whole marathon. Thank you for sharing the emotions, and that's why also at the beginning I would like to share that it's very trappy thing if we decide to compare the feelings we have now with other people around. It's not like all of us are energetic, and it's also not like all of us are tired now. We have a whole spectrum, and as we are all in the crisis, we also need to be aware of the fact that the stages of going through any change, loss of crisis are different. And some of us would be on the level of denying still that there is something like that going on just next to our border. Some of us will be totally angry and having a feeling like, I want to punch and punish aggressively now everybody who is involved in what is going on. Some of us would start negotiating. Oh my God, maybe if I start praying right now, the God will change the whole situation. Is there anything I can do right now to stop it? So we start negotiating. Then some of us might be even these days on the level of total sadness and feel the flood of sadness and maybe even of some numbness or apathy. These are the first steps. Only the last would be the acceptance of our emotions. I'm not talking about the acceptance of what's going on, because that's a totally different thing. But the acceptance comes after that, that moments of anger, of sadness, of denial. And only after acceptance, our mobilization would be the most. Thank you for sharing. Some of you feel very energized one day, but then the next day very flat and exhausted, and that's also okay. I'm also checking a lot of interesting speeches by psychiatrists these days, and they all agree about one thing. These days we experience such an amount of emotions that it's even impossible to find out what is the real mixture. So I met people who say that at the same time they experience anger and sadness, and they can't tell what is more. They feel like they are at the same time energetic and at the same time sad. Some of you cannot focus on the daily work. You are forcing yourself, but it's hard. Thank you for sharing that. And yes, this is also what I observe, and that's why I promised myself that we are going to do the best to go through that times together and to check how we are feeling and to check what kind of support we are facing. One of you via our app is telling that you have difficulties explaining your kids the situation without scaring them. I also have 2 kids, and I definitely know what you mean. And I want to make sure this meeting would be rather dedicated to adults. However, most of the tips we're going to share today would be easily transferred to kids. But please know that in our MindGram YouTube space, we have a very, very great talk with Dr. Aleksandra Piotrowska. The doctor used to be the professor of mine when I was studying psychologist. And that person is having a dialogue with Gosia Ome on our stream, YouTube stream. And this is an hour and a half about specific tips on how to talk to our kids. So maybe Kuba, if I can ask you to share the link. Thank you for being so supportive. There are a lot of tips. The most important would be we shouldn't hide anything. We have to be sincere about our feelings. However, we need to adjust it to the level of our kids. So if you have 8 years old and 11 years old, it's important even to adjust the message differently to 8 years old and to 11-year-old kid. You are saying you cannot focus on the daily work, and that's why I would like to tell you what are the tips I'm doing right now. What is helpful for me to stay quite energetic through the day. But as I said, I strongly believe it's a kind of a sprint, and then a kind of a breakdown would definitely take place. But I feel strong enough to cope with that. What do I do these days? I strongly believe that the most important thing is to make sure that you provide yourself with a good fuel these days. And I want you to ask yourselves the question, how do you start your day these days? Because we wake up in the morning and then happens the moment when we tank our organism and also our mental sphere with the fuel. If you are starting a day with checking the news and the media consumption, I'm absolutely more than sure that the images you see and the atmosphere you are then in is not giving you any fuel. That's why the important thing we have to do in the morning is to transfer our attention into something that would give us strength. For some of you, that could be praying and starting the day with a prayer. For some of you, that would be meditation or any mindfulness short technique, like staying with your emotions, staying with what's going on without assessing, without labeling, without estimating. For the other people, it will be maybe reading a book or taking a bath. Please don't forget about everyday rituals we have, because we are preparing ourselves for a long-term help. That's why we can't start being exhausted. But make a quick decision. With what would you start your day with? The moment you start the day would give you the fuel, and then you will be ready to use that fuel till the end of the day. Once I started the day with checking the media, and as one of you is sharing, I felt I'm totally unable to focus on the daily work. I was forcing myself, but it was too hard for me. So I changed the idea. So I decided to learn from my own mistakes. And that's why now I start the days with short breathing sessions. And that would be, I'm totally sure, helpful for you. And also for all the people that you might be facing these days. Maybe you are taking Ukrainian people to your homes and you are asking yourself how to psychologically help them. I was also thinking about what would I say to people that came to stay at my flat. And I thought, oh my God, what would I tell them? What would I tell them? If I was starting the day with the news, then the only thing I wanted to tell them was the news, the facts I know about the situation in Ukraine now. But then I understood that it's not me who is to talk, but it's them. It's about them. It's about what is going on inside their heads. And I found out that if I start the day with a breathing technique, it helps me to be more even curious of how do they feel. And I'm not so eager, to know how to react and what to do these days. That's why, as a psychologist, I'm asking you to help yourselves and the people that might be visiting you, or you may be visiting people from Ukraine these days, to start doing the short breathing session together. You don't know what to say, you can do the breathing. And it's not about knowing any complex idea right now, but it's about a very, very simple thing. What I want you to use these days is the so-called vagus nerve. It's a part of our autonomous nervous system. It's like nerw błędny in Polish. And people forget about that magic button in their organisms. If you sit down and do a quick 1 minute even session of deep breathing, so you do take a deep breath in, and then do not a quick but a longer breath out session, and you repeat that 3 times, then the vagus nerve comes into the action. That vagus nerve is a specific part of your nervous system If you are doing the deep breathing, it's connected to your diaphragm, and it stretches all over your back body. And it has a magical function of alarming your own heart to slow down. So it's like a magical pill, but you don't take a pill, but you do the breathing in the beginning of the day. Also, during the day, if you see the news or if you feel like, oh my God, I want to start crying and now I have a meeting in 5 minutes, you get back to the breathing session and your vagus nerve starts working. Especially in the moments when we feel like I'm too tired, I'm too exhausted, I cannot concentrate, you can do that. As more than even 3 people claim here that you are just tired, what I would strongly recommend is the awareness of what is the biggest trap these days in your own head. As a psychologist, I feel like it's my task to help people understand their brain. I strongly believe we have most of the resources that are now necessary to feel the peace of mind in us, in our minds. We don't have to wait till somebody will save us or till somebody announces something important for us. We don't have to wait till somebody or something or the situation would calm us down. What we need to do is to calm down the panic of our own amygdala. And you might ask, what is that strange word, amygdala, and how to understand that functioning these days? And to let you understand that even better, I strongly ask you to do a short breathing session when you're listening to me, and at the same time, you warm up your hands. We can do that together. And while still being able to listen to me, I want to ask you to put your hands, on your ears. And keep them there for a few seconds. And now if you could imagine an invisible rope or a string that is going between your left ear and right ear. So just in the middle of the way between your left ear and right ear, there is a small part of the brain that is responsible for us having no energy these days. This is also responsible for our panic. This is also responsible for our anxiety and stress these days. This part is a part of our limbic system. This place is called amygdala, and it's a very, very small part in the size and shape of an almond. That's why it's called amygdala. And this is the part that is responsible for all of we feel. I feel exhausted. I feel motivated. I feel ready to help, but I also feel apathy. And that part of your brain is now having a battle with the second part of your brain. Let's imagine which is the second one, so you can also warm up your hands a little bit. And you can put them on your prefrontal cortex, because just behind your forehead, if you put your hand here, lays down, the second very, very important part of your brain is the part of your neocortex, and it's called prefrontal lobes. As that center part between your ears, called amygdala, was responsible for all of the emotions, that part is something else. It's only 5 centimeters away from amygdala, but it totally changes the whole formula. Your prefrontal cortex is responsible for your logic, rational thinking, and rational actions these days. And what is that trap What is that stopgap? What is that dangerous mechanism we are all facing these days? Our amygdala is on high alert today, and it has a possibility, it has a tendency to flood the rest of your brain, and that means the more emotional you become now, the more angry you become, the more stressed you become, the less you are in touch with your logic. We need our prefrontal cortex to do in that marathon that is waiting for us the following days, weeks, and maybe even years. We need the prefrontal cortex to do the things logically, to prepare the support for Ukraine and Ukrainian people logically, so that this help and support is profitable, is beneficial, and is the best. If we don't calm ourselves down, we will be only not focused, as you say, we will be tired, we will become even angry or aggressive towards our kids and our families. Why? Because our amygdala is on high alert today. It's very, very activated, and it has a possibility to do something that is called affect. What is that? Our amygdala works on such a high level that it totally disconnects us from doing things logically. Last two nights, I spent not more than 4 hours sleeping. And I promised myself this is the last time, because I definitely realized that I'm just drowning in the emotions and I'm not doing the things that will be profitable in the marathon. I want to do so many of the things that I believe, yes, I have to stay energetic now in that sprint. But I feel like it's the moment when my amygdala starts to take control over my brain. And there are more of you having the same. Thank you for sharing. We need to stop ourselves to realize that there is a kind of a battle outside us, but there is also a battle in the brain. And to win the battle in the brain, we need to stop. Without stopping, without having a stop on that marathon way, we won't be able to fuel ourselves with anything. And that's why I said we are to calm down the panic of our own amygdala. As a trainer in Mindgram, I used to say last year all the time that we all go through difficult times. We just thought that we would see the light after 2 years of pandemic. Our amygdala was still on high alert. And now, in the times of crisis, in the times of danger, in the times of lack of even hope for some of us, our amygdala is even more on high support. Start today with calming down your own amygdala. Don't start with media consumption. Start with something that will energize you for the rest of the day. As you say, if you are tired and cannot focus on work, stop forcing yourself, take a break. Take a break, sit down, do the breathing, maybe you want to pray, maybe you want to read something, because that would be the moment of decreasing the panic of your own amygdala, and only then you can persuade your mind to transferring the energy only from the emotional level, so from the limbic system, from the amygdala, to logical thinking and to logical actions. I very, very often use the simple metaphor. In your brain, in your mind, there are two important parts having a battle. Once again, the amygdala and your cortex. And your brain is totally unable to work on these two levels exactly at the same time. If you cannot concentrate, it means your memory, your concentration is disabled somehow. Why? It is disabled, it is decreased because you are full of emotions. Only if you calm down the panic of your amygdala, so if you calm yourself down, you do the breathing, you maybe call a friend to talk, or maybe even you go to take a nap. Only if you calm down the panic of amygdala, the rest of your brain can take the control then. Unable to work these days? Yes, I strongly agree. Your amygdala is on high alert today. And if you are looking for any other inspirations in the field of fueling ourselves and fulfilling ourselves with something that will give us strength and mental strength for a long time, I love to share one of my favorite metaphors from psychology. I want all of you to imagine that suddenly you feel like you need to drink coffee. You are just dreaming about having coffee. Oh my God, it's so good that these days we can still go to the coffee shop and buy ourselves a coffee. Not everyone has a possibility to do that these days. But we still have, and we can be grateful for that. And imagine you feel like you want to have the coffee. You really need that. Coffee is a pleasure of your life, and it's something that gives you a moment of joy in the day. So you go to your favorite coffee shop. You buy a cup of coffee. You keep that coffee in your hands, and you walk away from the coffee shop. But suddenly, there is somebody who punches you, even by chance. Somebody that is suddenly making you spill the fluid from your cup. And psychologists love to ask the question, what is being spilled all around you? Coffee? Water? Tea? And people smile then, because that seems to be such a silly question. If I bought a cup of coffee, so if the cup was fulfilled with coffee, so how can I expect that something else would be poured out and spilled outside? Isn't that totally the same with us? What is that fuel? What is that coffee you fulfill yourself these days? In the most difficult moments in life, in the moments of challenge, in the moments of crisis, in the moments of war, only the things that we invested in, only the things that we fulfill ourselves with previously would be able to be spread all around. We cannot expect that if we fulfill ourselves now only with dangerous, aggressive, hostile pictures, news, and if we only invest in our anxiety, stress, and depression these days, that something else would be spread then. You want to spread peace, love, understanding, support, help to others. You need to take as much of such a fuel to your heart, to your brain, to your body now, so that then, in the moment of next fall downs and crises, this is something that you will be able to share. That's why if you are asking yourself, is that okay if I'm going to a hairdresser these days, if people are suffering? Is that okay if I just close my eyes, switch off the TV and go to sleep? Is that okay? Can I do that? Is that okay if I still go to a company and buy a cup of coffee when people are suffering? Yes, it's still okay, because it calms down the panic of your amygdala and it gives you the strength to face the following days or weeks of everything that is happening right now. For some of you, it's hard to react how other people respond to the news. These people around are making you feel stressed, and you want to show them that the internal stability is now the only thing we can really do. Thank you very much for that comment. We cannot feed our friends and relatives around us with something we don't have. That's why, as a psychologist, I believe that our internal stability, just as you claim here, is something we need to achieve for ourselves to start, and only then we will be able to share it. That's totally that idea of a cup of coffee and the coffee being spilled all around. How do we fuel ourselves? How do we fuel ourselves? I want you to calm down the panic of your amygdala. I want you to use that magic button in your organism that is called the vagus nerve. I want you to be aware of the fact that it's a part of autonomous nervous system, and please be aware of the fact that the mechanism of the brain is very, very simple. The autonomous nervous system consists of two parts, the sympathetic one and the parasympathetic one. And that sympathetic one is the one that is a kind of like on button in our organism these days. On, 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 on. Please imagine any kind of home equipment like toaster or video recorder. And please imagine that this equipment has an on button still turned on. That on power of our autonomous nervous system is our sympathetic nervous system, and it arises us. It's so helpful now when we have the sprint, but very, very soon we will feel exhausted. Very, very soon we will go into chronic stress, and now take into account that we also had 2 years of pandemic. And what we need to do now, that we need to be able to get that internal stability one of you is sharing, we need to stop turning on all the time. There is the second part of our autonomous nervous system that is called parasympathetic, and that one is activated also by your vagus nerve. So once again, the simple, free formula of breathing, taking rest, meditation, praying, anchoring, closing your eyes, imagining that you still are in a safe position, doing any positive affirmation or self-talk to your body, is that button that calms down the activation of your amygdala. And it's the button that helps you switch from sympathetic system that we are now all on, and that's why we are so tired, into the parasympathetic one. Before we move further, maybe there is also another psychological picture that you might find helpful in this situation. I'm a huge fan of seas and oceans. I didn't have many opportunities to visit seas and oceans last years, but the picture of me standing on the shore and me watching the tides, the waves, of me watching the sea and the water is something that on the mental level gives me an absolute feeling of peace, strength, and resilience. And when I think of nature, who was the creator of that ability for us to watch the seas and the oceans, very soon I realized that the picture of water is giving me the peace of mind because there's so much of balance in that and harmony. Do you know what I mean? When you stand and listen to the waves, you feel like there is an inflow, but also there is a regular outflow. So the wave is coming and the wave is out. The wave is coming and the wave is out. That's why I find peace of mind when I see that and when I listen to that. What we are experiencing these days, people all around the world, not only here in Poland, is that there is a huge total inflow coming to our faces, to our homes, to our bodies. It's an inflow. And if we stay activated on amygdala, activated with that sympathetic nervous system, there is a huge possibility that we will be unable to keep balance. Nature is smart, so smart, and it knows that after every inflow, there needs to be an outflow to stay balanced. Like we have two legs, and if you are able to use two legs to go through your whole life, you need to use two. If you use only one, it means you are somehow impaired. You can't be balanced. And that's why I'm politely asking yourselves to invest in your parasympathetic nervous system now. It's the magical button of off. Once again, let's get back to that home equipment. After on, you need to switch off. And you can't wait till the war is over. You can't wait till following month. You have to do it today in order to get back to your force and to be able to be motivated. Some of you rely on humor a lot to calm yourself, and also you try to do it for others. Yes, especially the worst thing for us would be to be panicking, because as I said in the beginning, if we will go into panic, it will mean that our amygdala will take control of our brain, and this will disconnect us from doing logical things. Please answer yourself a question, whether you want to stop having control on your logical actions. Via Zoom, some of you are asking the questions, how to be assertive these days. Just a second for me to read the chat. Assertiveness is a magical thing. You are because if you are streaming us on YouTube, you can't see the comments from Zoom, so I will share it with everyone. One of you on Zoom is asking how to be assertive these days, because if you accumulate just enough good energy for yourself and your family, you want to prevent spilling this energy for people who are not exactly part of my circle, and make sure you have enough energy for the most important ones. Very, very often in psychology we say we need to start from ourselves. And yes, we have to be honest these days. We are unable to help everyone and everybody. It's better to stay with peace of mind to be able to help even a few people. So we are unable to share our harmony and our inner balance with us. And you are the only person to decide to what level you have to keep that peace and harmony for yourself. Some of you are so tired today, and we are in such a crisis personally that we should really, really, really be aware of emotions that are contagious, that are infectious, and we have to keep strong for ourselves only. And that would mean that we have to assertively say, I won't meet you this day. I need to concentrate on my own. Even if, for example, your husband is still trying to watch the news and to do the media consumption all the time, and you feel that that influences everything that is going on in the whole atmosphere in your flat, you can first kindly ask. Please remember that a kind request is also a step of assertiveness, and maybe that would be helpful. But if that's not enough, please share your feelings. Describe them from your own perspective, like, I get angry when you turn on the TV for 6 hours a day. Or you can say, I get frustrated. But from the psychological point of view, to become assertive these days, just remember about the simple formula. Start with telling how you feel these days and don't blame anyone for that. So that would be definitely better to say, I am stressed, I feel anger, I am frustrated, instead of telling your husband, you frustrate me with watching the news all day. Or you make me angry. I can't go on. It's still talking about the emotions, but it's blaming the other person. If you want to stay assertive these days, focus on the emotions you feel as somebody who is requesting. And then follow with the simple request, like, I want you to stop the videos, or I don't want us and our kids to be forced to watch the news at 6 a.m. when we wake up. I strongly believe this kind of thing that is taking place around us is a kind of a battle inside our heads, but it's also a battle about our energy. Would we be able to sustain our energy and to keep that for longer moments? Let's do not use that energy in stupid ways. Let's do not spill to everyone, because not everyone would be, in fact, interested and ready to use it. In fact, invest in ourselves, even if you might believe it's quite egoistic these days. I believe in positive egoism. I'm a lecturer for the last 16 years. I deliver the classes and the lectures on positive psychology in Warsaw, and I strongly believe that only by investing in ourselves and in being aware what kind of plants do we seed in our mental garden is absolutely essential and crucial these days. So once again, please be aware of the fact what is the fuel inside our head. When it comes to that internal stability you are telling about, I believe that the awareness of the mechanism in our brain is the first step. So there is the mechanism, once again, of amygdala playing with our prefrontal lobes, and we need to calm down the panic of amygdala, whatever way would be most suitable for you, to be in touch with our logic. And also that second mechanism would be the mechanism of our nervous system, being divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic part. And I believe our total responsibility these days is to invest in that second one, so in parasympathetic. What is that? That parasympathetic is that outflow. There is no harmony, balance, and peace if there is no outflow after the inflow. The tides are high these days, but if we only take it to ourselves, very, very soon we will be exhausted. Please ask yourself a question. What practically did you do to yourself to achieve the mental state of an outflow? Imagine yourself standing at the shore of the ocean. The news are coming as an inflow. The people around you who are angry, who are sad, who are exhausted, who are anxious, they are all, and their reactions are all a kind of an inflow. You are the only person to stop the inflow and to start outflowing that. Yes, I know the tide is high. I know the times are difficult. I also feel the times are really, really heartbreaking. But we can stay in that heartbreak and have our amygdala arise to a level of panic and affect, so that we will start doing illogical things, or we can transform it to our strength. Transformation would absolutely need to turn on our parasympathetic nervous system. Please invest in valuable, precious off time for you. Maybe it will be 5 minutes. Maybe it will be 2 hours more of sleep today. Maybe it's gonna be a prayer. Maybe it's gonna be a special dinner or supper you prepare for your friends, for your neighbors, maybe together with Ukrainian people coming next to your house or flat. Please, with awareness, invest in the moment when your amygdala would feel, I am safe. Your amygdala is an alarm center, and yes, this situation strongly requires our amygdala to be on high alert. Let's understand it and let's accept it. If you don't accept it, you will be still fighting, this time with your own brain. I can still remember a lecture with one of my favorite psychologists, Dr. Ewa Wojdyło-Osiatyńska. And when I was studying psychology, she was telling about acceptance. And she was telling, a lot of people tell about acceptance, that we should accept what we feel. And for the first months as a young student, I didn't understand the idea of acceptance. I was taking acceptance for indifference, and I thought that if I accept what I'm feeling, it will mean I will be stuck in any point. But then the doctor said that acceptance is a very, very rare psychological mechanism in our head, and I remember these words till these days. She said, acceptance is so rare and so genius that although it is not an emotion, it can switch off the arousal of your other emotions. So you are feeling not assertive, maybe you are feeling too polite, you are feeling anxious, you are feeling stressed. What about checking the idea of acceptance of what you feel? Stop feeling guilty. Stop feeling guilty for what other people are doing. Stop feeling guilty of if you are taking enough or giving enough support. Stop fighting with your feelings. I love the idea of what are really emotions and our feelings, and I strongly believe we can compare them to a kind of a courier, somebody who knocks at your door with a special box, a gift to give you. If you are feeling anxiety or stress or even aggression right now, please imagine that there is a courier knocking at your door. If you are not accepting what you feel, it's like the courier is knocking and you say, no, 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 I don't want you, go back. You don't even know what is in the box. We have these emotions, these profound emotions these days, not only to feel. All of these emotions carry something behind. Most of them would be like wagons of energy. You feel anger because it can give you an energy to fight for the rights of people, for giving the support to them. There is only one basic emotion that is not rather to give you energy, but it's rather about making you closed to yourself, and it's sadness. But it can be also seen as a kind of a precious box that the courier is giving you these days. If you're feeling something, you go to a courier and you say, yes, I take the box and I will check, I will open it up and I will check what is the message. The message of anger is to give you a fuel, a wagon of energy to act. The message of stress is to activate your whole body and your whole brain and mind system to act, to be effective these days. If we accept the emotion, it's the moment of inviting the courier and saying, yes, I understand this box, so this anger or this stress is right now necessary for me. I have to read the message behind that. I have to open the box, and only then I can do something else with that. But that magical moment of opening up the box and not fighting with what we feel right now is called acceptance. If we don't accept, it's like somebody punches a big bag of stones to us and we cannot make any other move further. Acceptance is a magical button that will decrease the activation of our amygdala. It's the magic system. As our vagus nerve tells a signal straightly to our heart to slow down, so it's like a magical pill telling to your heart, slow down, you are at peace right now, you can relax yourself, calm down, and you can do that just by breathing. There is such a mechanism in your brain that you can just use today for free. And when there will be people coming, maybe to your houses, and you will meet people who are really in need now, after the time of listening to them, linking them with basic help, also think about understanding these people through the perspective of that mechanism. Although the situation we are facing now is totally abnormal, we are all normal human creatures these days. Some of you are sharing that you need to prepare your parasympathetic stuff and get ready with your amygdala for a call at 10, and that's why you're leaving. Please remember, the battle is also in your head and in your mind. If you don't feel like ready to take the whole marathon, start with a simple step, with very simple. Use your vagus nerve, use your parasympathetic system, and try to calm down the panic of your own amygdala. So that's why I wake up in the morning, even if that's after 3 hours of sleep, and I tell myself, Karina, you are going angry, but no, not this way. You are going too stressed. We are going to invest together in calming down the activation of your amygdala, and then you will be able to think what to do these days. If these days you will still need any psychological support on any level, please be sure that I will be also available for all of you in English the following week. There will be meetings with me. We will definitely post the dates and the hours. Feel free to ask me any questions. And if you find any friends of you or any people in need who might need basic psychological support these days, please feel free to share the link, and maybe somebody will then more understand the battle that is taking the place inside your head. As MindBram, we prepared the hotlines for you and your friends. It's for free and all of you can use it. It's in Polish, it's in English, it's in Ukrainian, and it's also in Russian. So feel free to connect the friends and the people you might find in the need with all of these resources. Meanwhile, I have to say that I'm totally grateful for the community we are having all together, all around the world. I'm very happy to stay with you, and I strongly, strongly, strongly believe that this is not a hole into something, but this is just a door. And as a kind of a gate, and as a kind of a portal towards the world in which we understand our values, we keep our values, together we will go into the community that supports everyone. Thank you very much for staying with me. All the best, and remember about calming down your amygdala these days and investing in your parasympathetic part of nervous system. Thank you. See you.